Hong Kong Law Society boycott government's legal aid.
LaSalle student caught with illicit drugs.
Hillary Clinton says Iran must discuss nuclear issues.
And Osama bin Laden has vowed to continue fighting the US.
The DHK Evening News with Ivan Leung and Amy Blom.
Good evening. The Law Court Society Criminal Law and Procedure Committee has announced a month-long boycott for criminal legal aid cases in October. The protest is against the government's refusal to review the system. Members wanted the government to provide more resources and funding. The committee chairman, Stephen Hong, believes the action won't affect people seeking legal aid.
A LaSalle college student has been placed on probation for 12 months for possessing the psychotropic drug ecstasy and a painkiller. The teenager will have to take urine tests and seek treatment if he reoffends while on probation. A teacher and a prefect of the college alerted the police in April after noticing the pupil acting suspiciously.
4 people sustained serious injuries and more than 70 people who were also hurt after the Typhoon Kopus has swept past Hong Kong. Most of them were struck by falling objects. A major cleanup operation has been underway after strong winds and heavy rains fell more than 300 trees and caused widespread damage. 8 areas were affected by floods, with Taiwan on Lantau Island the worst hit. The observatory says while Typhoon Kopus wasn't particularly strong, it intensified from a tropical storm to typhoon quite quickly before lashing Hong Kong.
The chairman of PCCW, Richard Lee, has formally dropped a plan to appeal a court decision against the privatization of his firm. It ends the US $2.1 billion saga. The statement was issued last night by Mr. Lee's company, Pacific Century Regional Developments, to the Singapore Stock Exchange. The statement said the decision not to appeal was made after careful deliberation and with an eye to drawing an end to the matter. Mr. Lee had been considering an appeal to the Court of Final Appeal to debate issue of law raised during the court hearing.
Now some international news. U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton says Iran must head on concerned about this nuclear program at the talk of the world's power on October 1st. Clinton says the issue cannot be ignored and was the key reason why U.S. agreed to take part in the talks. Tehran last week offered comprehensive talks, but it did not mention nuclear program. The West fears that Iran is secretly developing nuclear weapons. At a claim to denied by Tehran, Iran insists its program is for civilian use only. We have made it clear Iranians that any talks that we participate must address the nuclear issue head-on, Clinton said in Washington. She says the talks were fulfillment of the President Barack Obama's pledge. Iran says there's a number of issues it wished to discuss with us, but what we are concerned is about the issues discussing with them the questions surrounding the nuclear program's ambitions. Clinton says the U.S. will wait and see how Iran responds face-to-face venue.
Japan's parliament has elected former opposition leader Yukio Hatoyama as Prime Minister following his party's landslide election victory last month. Mr. Hatoyama's left-of-centre party controls 308 of the 480 seats in Parliament's lower chamber, which selects the Prime Minister. Prime Minister Teo Aso and his cabinet resigned earlier in the day to pave the way for the new government. The selection of Mr. Hatoyama has ended more than 50 years of nearly unbroken rule by Mr. Aso's Conservative Liberal Democratic Party. Mr. Hatoyama has promised to shake up Japan's political system, cutting government waste, reinvigorating the world's second-largest economy, and focusing policies on consumers, not big business. I am excited by the prospect of change, said Mr. Hatoyama before the vote in Parliament. I also feel the weight of the responsibility of making history. His first task will be to name a cabinet. Media reports said he'd already chosen Katsuya Okada as his foreign minister and Hiroshi Fuji as his finance minister.
The UN head of political affairs, Lynn Pascoe, is to meet Sri Lanka's government officials for urgent talks with thousands of Tamils still detained in camps. 4 months after the end of civil war, Mr. Pascoe says he is very concerned about slow progress on letting refugees return home. He says it also raised the issue of treatment of UN staff in Sri Lanka. As a spokesman said on children's funding has already his fees revoked, and 2 of the UN local staff has been detained.
Several mortars or rockets have been fired at Baghdad's fortified Green Zone government district shortly after US Vice President Joe Biden flew in to keep up US pressure on Iraq's leaders to reach political promises. Iraqi police said 2 suspected mortar rounds landed near the sprawling US embassy compounded in the Green Zone, but did not hit it. Biden had met with the US Ambassador Chris Hill and the top US military commander General Ray Odierno just before the mortar strikes. Mr. Biden's second visit to Iraq in 3 months signaled that the Obama administration is anxious to resolve long-standing disputes between Kurdish, Shiite and Sunni Arab communities over land and oil.
Now there's evidence for both Israeli army and Palestinian militants committed war crimes and possibly crimes against humanity during the recent conflicts over Gaza Strip. The United Nations has said the missions concluded that actions amongst the war crimes and possibility to some respect of crimes against humanity were committed by Israel Defense Force. UN investigator Richard Goldstone says a summary of nearly 600-page report on the fact-finding mission's conclusion that also find firing rockets into Israel by Palestinian militants where were no militant targets would also constitute war crimes and possibly crimes against humanity.
The Iraqi journalist who threw his shoes at former President George W. Bush has been released after 9 months in prison, and he said Iraqi security forces tortured him with beatings, whippings and electric shocks after his arrest. Muqtada al-Zaidi, whose stunning act of protest last December made him a hero around the Arab and Muslim worlds, said he now feared for his life and believed that US intelligence agents would chase after him. The 30-year-old reporter's act of protest deeply embarrassed Iraq's Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki, who was standing beside Bush at a news conference when al-Zaidi suddenly shot up from his chair and hurled his shoes towards the podium.
Now finally, at least 38 people were killed in a flash flood in the remote region of Indonesia's North Sumatra province. A spokesman for the provincial government says the flood hit the coastal district of Mandalin, natal of 275 kilometers southwest of the provincial capital. Powerful water unleashed after the Sulang River overflowed, uprooted trees and smashing through the house through 6 villages.
Yeah.
And that's all for now. Matt Waldron will be here for World News Tonight. From all the team here, have a good night.
Good night.